Hello, good evening, and welcome to Iron Port here on Metropolitan Television. Iron Port is proudly brought to you by the Ghana Revenue Authority, GOIL PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, MPS, and indeed Phoenix Insurance. The show is proudly powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority-GPHA, and our media partner on this journey of a lifetime is the Business and Financial Times, the BNFT. If you want to have a grasp of all that transpired on the show tonight, then make a date and grab the Thursday edition of the BNFT, and you'll be able to see all that happened here on the show. We are streaming live on our social media pages. On Facebook, we are live at Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Still on Facebook, we are live at Port of Tema. And on YouTube, we are streaming live at Iron Port Ghana. Iron Port Ghana. We shall be getting interactive with you, and so all you have to do is send us your messages and comments via our dedicated WhatsApp line, which is 0559019177. 0559019177. Now, when the time is ripe and I pick signals from the production team, we shall activate the phone lines for you to call in and contribute to the discussion. My name is Mona. We are going for a quick break. When we return, we'll continue the show. Please stay with us.
Guys, now I'm tired. I'll go on a date with whoever gets here first.
Princess, really? Okay, I come.
Shut up!
Mame, Boss, fill my tank with Super XP Raw 95.
Fill up with Super XP Raw 95 and Diesel XP high performance products from GOIL.
Sorry, Tony got here first, so I'm stepping with him.
Oh, cut him. Hey, go for mommy.
Choose Super XP Raw 95 and Diesel XP for an energizing driving experience. Always go for GOIL Super XP Raw 95. GOIL, good energy. GOIL is good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water, or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse. And my machines that were affected by the flood have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance Motor Policy. Currently, my goods are on the IC covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima,
tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm. sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302 246 319 or 0243 690 492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
Hello, you're welcome back. We're now going for some happenings in the port and shipping industry in the course of the week. And indeed, in the course of the week, the President launched the National Integrated Maritime Strategy, that's the NIMS, plus the fact that GPHA has procured some new equipment to enhance operations at the port. And Keta Port Environmental and Social Impact Assessment has also commenced. Let's take a look at these stories and more.
The National Integrated Maritime Strategy, which seeks to map out workable solutions to the industry's problems, has been launched. Another goal of the strategy is a strong blue economy that not only creates a substantial portion of national income, but also raises people's standards of living. It was launched by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo during the opening of the 3rd International Maritime Defense Exhibition and Conference 2023, held at Bema Camp in Accra. The 6-point strategy includes strengthening the framework for maritime governance, the safety and security of Ghana's maritime domain, development of a thriving blue economy, protection of the marine and coastal environment, promotion of capacity building, research, awareness, and knowledge sharing in the maritime domain, and the development of a dynamic and diversified regional and international cooperation. Minister for Transport, Kweku Ofori-Esiama, said the unified efforts of government, industry, civil society groups, and academia in bringing to life this strategy demonstrates a collective determination to propel Ghana's maritime sector to new heights.
The Ministries of Transport and National Security commend the development of the National Integrated Maritime Strategy with an overreaching goal of contributing to the growth of Ghana's blue economy. Working through various technical committees, NIMS has been carefully crafted through collaborative efforts, drawing up the expertise of various stakeholders, including government agencies, industry leaders, and civil society organizations.
President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, doubled up on calls for maritime agencies to leverage technology for the development of the sector.
I believe the maritime security agencies attending this program would engage the same spirit of collaboration in the conference deliberations to tackle the high cases of psycho and illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing in this region. It is important to indicate that IUU fishing, for instance, is linked to piracy, human trafficking, and illicit drug and weapons smuggling. I thus urge the maritime law enforcers to consider using technology to break the vital link between these crimes and criminal syndicates.
He expressed worry over inaccurate reportage damaging Ghana's reputation so far as maritime security is concerned.
The fact that some ship owners reported a few unverified petty theft incidents at anchorages could not be equated to piracy in the context of international maritime law definition. As much as maritime rating stakeholder organizations contribute towards international shipping, they should be mindful of the implications of inaccurate reportage on a nation's ability to participate in global trade.
The Port of Takoradi has commissioned a workshop facility for the Ghana Inshore Fishermen Association, GPHA, in New Takoradi, situated within the Sekondi Takoradi metropolis of the Western region. The facility features amenities like a tools room, changing room, machine shop, Ministry of Food and Agriculture Department, and GPHA offices, as well as a conference room. The Regional Director of Fisheries for Greater Accra, Hannah Ijebuachi, commended GPHA for the initiative aimed at offering both social and economic advantages to stakeholders within the sector.
Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, the Abafuka corporate social responsibility now. maybe a yearly share, baby, or what did you man? Peku Munya Faso, so what is show our brother to say up for phone. Maybe, and I want your money, a share and cry pots, a share Mina, a share money never be free. Now, Fisheries Commission, a year, you stop
GIFA's representative Eric Kofi Otu mentioned that the workshop would boost productivity and ease the burden of fishermen who traveled long distance for operations at odd hours to start fishing expeditions. The director of Takoradi Port, Peter Amobediako, expressed the port's commitment to enhancing the fisheries sector. He encouraged the community to take an active role in maintaining the facility by contributing through levies rather than relying solely on government support.
One of the things that we lack is a maintenance culture. The idea about this is, say, if you and 4 years, name no. Apofo wa ha ne association for us will be a could you one city. Say ade we ye nya dia. Wo de mon kan boat owners wa ha mon kan canoe owners wa ha. No bia ni one city na to si ye kan bom na se fanto painter edi. De bia de ya say aban ye kan aban.
The Western Regional Minister, Honorable Kwabena Dako Mensam, entreated the fisher folks to consider diversifying their activities by participating in aquaculture. This approach, according to him, would provide support during times when they do not catch enough fish at sea, while also enabling them to generate additional income.
Say, and now you money, and still our main years kafa. Abadu between ya rakamu, you two years. Only to make the part in the Fisheries Ministry, what are other opportunities, whatever our friend aquaculture.
As part of efforts to retool the port of Tema, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority has taken delivery of a set of 27 tele trucks and 2 cranes, which will be put to use immediately. In addition, the authority also expects delivery of 10 laden reach stackers in phases between October this year and February 2024. The logistics manager at the Port of Tema said the investment in this fleet of equipment, which cost over $6 million, is geared towards improving service delivery at the port.
Just behind me is a tele-truck. In fact, it used to be for construction, but GPHA has managed to turn it into a port equipment. With addition of these equipment, it's going to help us increase our service to clients and make them appreciate our efforts to make sure we give quick service delivery in their receipt of cargo.
Processes leading to the construction of the Port of Keta are progressing steadily with the commencement of the environmental and social impact assessment. The director in charge of the Keta Port project, Dr. Alexander Dusey, has led a team from the Coastal and Reclamation Engineering Services Ghana Limited, who are the consultants for the environmental and social impact assessment, to the project sites ahead of their work. The consultants will be engaging stakeholders in the Volta region for the next 6 months on both the positive and negative impacts of the project. Earlier, the director in charge of the Keta Port project led a senior management team from the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority together with the consultants to pay a courtesy call on a Dufia of Keji, Dogby Joachim Akulache I, where the latter were introduced to him.
So I would like to welcome all of you today. I know consultants who have been selected for this impact assessment. We definitely work with the community. That's why I invited my elders are always here, so that they can also explain some of these things to the people and also cooperate with you.
The Municipal Chief Executive for Keta, Emmanuel Gamega, pledged the support and that of the municipality to the consultants to ensure a successful environmental and social impact assessment.
For the assessment, we will have people coming to the community to ask them questions about their livelihood, about what they think about the project. I am going to encourage my people to freely vouch information, to freely cooperate with them, and then even accept them into their homes.
The technical manager of Coastal and Reclamation Engineering Services Ghana Limited, Matthew Baker, explained the scope of work they will be carrying out.
A really important phase is the stakeholder engagement. Stakeholder engagement is a critical phase, going into the communities to find out what everyone's views on the project, what their concerns may be, what their expectations are, so that we can build those concerns, expectations into the impact assessment.
The director in charge of the Catapult project, Dr. Alexander Dusey, was optimistic of the projects coming to fruition and the important role of the environmental and social impact assessment.
This is a very important step for us. Without a completed report, which includes the environmental impact assessment and the feasibility study, you cannot get a credible investor. Every investor needs these two reports to go. But to ensure that we don't waste too much time, what we've done is, while we are running this, we are running the investor pool in parallel. That one too, we've had about 24 companies that have expressed interest. We have pared it down to about 6 companies. But we've kept the window open for those who are still interested in applying to go ahead and apply. We will still use the same vigorous template of review to do anyone who comes in.
All right, so welcome back. Those were happenings in the port and shipping industry in the course of the week. We are now going for the phrase or word of the day. And remember, the phrase or word of the day has been fashioned to bring you up to speed with the terminologies and jargons we use in the shipping industry. And today's word is break bulk. Break bulk.
Break loose non-containerized cargo stored directly into a ship's hold.
All right, so we are zooming into our discussion proper tonight, and tonight we are taking a look at the regulatory and management regime of Ghana's fisheries sector, how far we've come, what the challenges have been. There have been a lot of stakeholders who have complained about the numerous and litany of challenges that has bedeviled the sector, for which reason we are not able to make the most of the natural resources at sea. That's fisheries in particular. And so tonight we're trying to examine the sector, how far we've come, what the way forward should be, and what we should be doing as a country to make the most of this particular industry. So it gives me pleasure this evening to introduce to us Dr. Jemima Etonam Kasa, who's a fisheries scientist and aquaculture professional. She's also a lecturer at the Department of Biology Education, the University of Education, Winneba. I understand she's joined us via Zoom. Good evening, Doc, if you can hear me. Okay. All right.
Hello. Hello.
Great. Yes. Thank you very much indeed. I hope you're doing well.
I'm fine, thank you, and it's my pleasure and honor to be on your program tonight.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you very much for obliging us. And also in the studios is Mr. Rickster Ni Amafio, who is Executive Director of the Blue Economy and Governance Consult. He's no stranger to this show. Good evening, sir, and welcome. Yes.
Good evening, Kennedy.
And if you can draw your microphone close to you, I know you are doing some serious research for this.
No, I'm just following some people. But
all right, okay.
I almost said Bernard.
Yes, Bernard is a politician. You're a good friend.
I was looking at something that he has posted. So I was
about
actually,
Togo and this thing.
So I almost said Bernard. Kennedy.
Okay, yes.
Sorry, I'm good though.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
I understand these days you are globetrotting.
That's what he said.
Yes.
That's what he said.
Doing a lot of business for the fishery sector.
That's what he said, though. I don't know. I think I have a twin brother who looks like me, so when they see him flying, they think it's me.
I see. Welcome to the show, though. Let me go. Doc has been on the Zoom for a while now. Doc, let me come to you first of all and find out if you can, from the academic point of view or perspective, tell us what you think the state of Ghana's fishery sector as of now is.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks once again to your viewers. And hello, Rista. We've met a few times, so
hi, Doc.
It's good to see you here.
Good to see you, Doc.
Yeah. Yes. So I would want to say that yes, the fishery sector has a lot of challenges. That's true. And if I should speak for academia, I would first say that the foremost issue we are battling with in Ghana, apart from what we already know, which is declining stocks, is pollution, first of all. I would start with plastic pollution, and then with plastic pollution, we are looking at two types, where you can visibly see the plastics, which is macroplastics, and then plastics that have been broken down into smaller microscopic pieces that we cannot see, that are actually being absorbed into the tissues, right, of various aquatic or marine organisms. And these pose a very, very major threat. Even the macroplastics by themselves are leading to a lot of issues when fishermen haul their nets, because already they are recording low landings. And then when they drag their nets in, 40, 50, 60% is all just plastics. But here is the case, we are actually finding plastics also within the tissues of these species, and these come with various health impacts. The other aspect of pollution that we are taking for granted is the increasing time bomb we are sitting on, which is heavy metal pollution coming from our rivers that are discharging directly into the ocean, already laden with mercury from our alluvial mining activities, arsenic, as well as other very dangerous compounds. And we are also looking at the ever-present effect of climate change and its effect, right, on our fisheries. You all bear me witness that the rains or the weather this year has been very different. And that's because globally we are experiencing what is termed as El Nino, which is a weather phenomenon in the Pacific that tends to affect temperature and rainfall all over the world. And that's explaining the wildfires and the hurricanes, and here the cold temperature, so much so that this very past August, the ocean was very turbulent. So although that was the time when fishermen were poised to, land more fish or get increased catch, the waters were too rough. And so just to use that to initiate the conversation before Rista and I would delve into the very serious persistent problems we face, I think these are some of the emerging threats that we need to arrest before it's too late.
Would you say, from where you said that currently our fishery sector is fit for purpose and that we are making the most out of it?
Our fishery sector is currently in the operating room. I would say that our fishery sector really was bedeviled with a lot of challenges, and our small pelagics, that is what we call, the sardinellas or the herrings, the anchovies and the rest were in the state of near collapse. But we can all see that there's been a lot of interventions, with one key one being the close season, an attempt to reduce the number of vessels going into sea. There's been a reduction in the number of trawl vessels. Canoes are being registered and licensed. So we are moving away from that point where the fisheries was being rushed to the hospital, and now we are actually in that hospitalization state where a series of interventions are all being put together to ensure that we move out of the dire situation that we find ourselves in. So I would say that I see a lot of progress having been made in the past 3 to 4 years compared to 5 years ago. So I wouldn't say hope is lost. I can confidently say that Ghana's fisheries are in surgery, and we hope for a good outcome.
Awesome. You are staying with us until the end of the show, so don't go away. Let me come into the studios and engage Mr. Matthew and find out from you what you make of our current act. That's the Fisheries Act.
Well, I think that we need to appreciate where the act is coming from. The Fisheries Act takes its root from the Constitution Article 269, which requires that on the commencement of Parliament, they were supposed to establish various commissions for natural resource sector. And one of the commission was the Fisheries Commission. And so the Act 625 is the second. There was an earlier act that established a commission. So the 625 is the second one. which was promulgated in 2002. And what the act was basically supposed to do was to establish a Fisheries Commission. And so it does establish a Fisheries Commission. And so if you look at the act itself, there is establishment of the Fisheries Commission in the act and define who members of the commission should be. And then there is also committees of the commission, which includes settlement committee and all of that.
Yeah.
Then there is the secretariat of the commission, which was supposed to be headed by the director of fisheries. And then you have the Fisheries Development Fund that was set up. Then there were conservative measures in the Act. For instance, 88 and 93 discusses issues of pollution and managing the marine environment. And then there are issues of conservation, so it defines who should own vessels and all of that. And then you have enforcement from, I think, Section 94. You talk about enforcement, you talk about settlement issues, appeals issues, and all of that. So the Act actually deals with establishing a commission, giving it its function. So you have, for instance, the divisions of the commission. You have the FSS, the Fisheries Scientific and Survey Division. You have the Marines, Monitoring, Surveillance and Control Division and all of that. So establish divisions that would work with the commission. So it is not an act that is a management.
That's monitoring, control, surveillance and enforcement,
Yeah. That is 94. That's talk about enforcement. But when you talk the division, then you talk about the monitoring, control and surveillance division. So you have that division, but the enforcement is a unit.
Right.
So there are two different things altogether. So 94 talks about the unit, but then you have the division that's also established in the law.
Right.
So basically, it sets out a structure, and it is not an actual fisheries management tool. So you cannot manage your fisheries with the Act. It only establishes the Fisheries Commission and its structures, its funding sources, and how it should raise its funds, and then some other activities that makes that structure functional. Now, we are now talking about migrating the commission into a proper public service commission.
Yes.
And so we are now talking about an executive director instead of just an ordinary director. Some of us believe that some of the people who are serving on the commission board, for instance, is institutional rep, basically. So some of the institutions do not bear as much relevance to fisheries management as they should.
Right.
So probably we need to look at those who are serving on the commission board and the scope and the role they play. But if you talk about fisheries management itself, the Act further gives the commission the power to come out with a fisheries management plan, which is the tool to manage the fisheries. So the Act requires of the commission to come out with a fisheries management plan. And from 2002 to 2010, we actually didn't have a fisheries commission board in place. So there was
a board. There was a commission, but there was no board.
Well, at the time, it was a department, and it's gradually
Department of Fisheries.
Department of Fisheries.
Yes.
So it gradually moved to a commission. But you need those structures to be able to properly establish a commission. And those structures were difficult in coming.
Right.
Then in 2010, we had a board. So you realize that in 2008, there was an attempt to pass an LI, and Parliament rejected it because there was no commission board in place to sponsor the LI. Until 2010, when we had the commission in place, then the LI was passed, the Fisheries Regulation 2010 was passed, to regulate aspects of the fisheries. But by the nature of the Act, you need more than one LI to regulate the entire fishery.
Right.
Because, for instance, we have raised issues about 93, and 93 talks about fisheries impact assessments. And it was so vague that you need a regulation to be able to draw exactly what should happen. If you look at, I think 32 or so, which deals with the Fisheries Development Fund. It's an elaborate provision, but you would need to have specifics. As
32 deals with internal auditor.
Yeah, but that's why it's an elaborate provision that deals. I think it starts from a point.
Okay.
But that deals with the Fisheries Development Fund.
Right.
That provision is elaborate.
Okay.
But you still need to have it properly tuned.
Okay.
So that you know exactly what the fund should go into. Because it establishes a fund, it talks about who should manage the fund, who the signatories of the fund should be.
Yes.
But when it comes to where you actually need to put the fund, there is a challenge.
Yeah.
It means that you still need a regulation or an LI to be able to then know how to use the fund. Interestingly now, almost all the monies that were supposed to be paid into the fund now per some law now is paid into Government of Ghana accounts, GOG accounts at the Bank of Ghana. And Fisheries Commission used to take 100% of the IGF.
Right.
Now a percentage is paid
as
to
internally generated funds.
Yes,
Yeah.
a percentage is paid to Fisheries Commission. So you need a regulation to be able to deal with some of these things.
Right.
So, well, the Act in itself establishes a commission. It shows what the commission should do, but it is inadequate in itself.
Right.
Even now, when you rewrite a new law, you need to write a new law that still establishes a commission. But you need to write a number of regulations to be able to regulate how the commission functions.
Right.
In order that we are able to manage the fisheries properly. Because an act in itself will only establish the commission per the provisions in the Constitution.
Right.
But what you would need now is to have a regulation as to how you have to regulate the fishery sector and do so properly so that the challenges that Doc was enumerating may be dealt with. Because, for instance, yes, the law talks about the minister having the power to declare a closed season. What should be the nature and form of the closure? Because what we are having now is a general closure. Is it that you probably may have to look at area closures? Under what circumstances should you have an area closure? What should be the role of the scientists in deciding an area closure? If you want to look at the board meeting, what should they factor into their meetings and how they make their decisions?
Right.
We're in Rhode Island. We saw the Fisheries Commission in Rhode Island meet. They met in the open. They took input from the scientific and academia. They took input from other sources before they went into conclave to make decisions and set quotas.
Right.
You don't have the opportunity for the public to sit and make contribution to what the Fisheries Commission meets and make input into their meeting. Do you need a regulation to guide how the commission meets, or are they self-regulatory in their meetings? These things are not spelled out in the Act.
Right.
So even if you come out with a new Act, you will still need some regulations. You need a regulation that establishes the relationship between the commission and other players. For instance, we heard the Western Regional Minister say, oh, fishermen could go into aquaculture. What are the arrangements for them to go into aquaculture? Because the basic thing that happens now, because you don't have a regulation on aquaculture.
Yeah.
You have an aquaculture policy, but you don't have a regulation in aquaculture. So the basic thing that happens is that people would have to go to Environmental Protection Agency for clearance. They come to Fisheries Commission for some permit.
Yeah.
Then they start. But which waters are available for aquaculture? What is the Fisheries Commission role in deciding that, okay, we can have so many people go into aquaculture? And in aquaculture, you may have cage culture, you may have ponds, you may have other ways by which people you may even look at mariculture, that is keeping the fish in the sea.
Yeah.
And even coastal fisheries, because you have people who are picking bivalves, the clams and all of that. How we manage so that even if you want to now keep them and go into culture, when it comes to the bivalves, the shellfish, how are you going to do it? Because they are filter feeders.
Right.
And so if you have polluted waters, you you may not have very healthy clams. They may even be dangerous to our health when we consume them. So how are you going to manage all of this? You need regulations.
Absolutely.
So yes, we have a law that establishes a commission, but we have not gone the step further to ensure that that law is operational.
Right.
And it can only be operational when you have regulations. So if you even write a new law and you don't take steps to ensure that you make it operational by passing the requisite regulation, it may still not be functioning.
To be effective, it will be malfunctioning. All right. Let me come to Dr. Kasa and find out from you. Most of the time, we find industry players, we find academicians, we have experts telling us that we have vast potential in this particular sector that we have not been able to harness. Now, from your standpoint, how are we going to be able to harness these opportunities and turn them into real benefits to benefit the generality of the Ghanaian people, and particularly those living in the coastal areas where these seas and rivers are? Hello, Doc.
Yes,
Yes.
hello.
Yes.
Yeah, so I want to pick up from where Mr. Matthew ended at.
Yes.
We have so much potential, especially because we've been over-reliant on what we call capture fisheries, what we can get from our water bodies. The issue currently that is on the table, and for me as someone who also offers training and extension services privately in aquaculture, is that, as Rista said, we don't have regulations spelling out, for example, how many people are we allowing to go into aquaculture, say, per year, or in terms of production volumes or statistics, what's the maximum tonnage of say tilapia that you can have or harvest from your cage. So we are having issues where we have a lot of water bodies with untapped potential, again because we've not been able to carry out a lot of research into the viability of such areas. And then we also need to look at what we call the carrying capacity of some of these water bodies, because if you take a look at what we call the so there's this stretch of water between the Akosombo Dam and the Akuse Dam. It's called the Kpong Head Pond. Okay, so the Kpong Head Pond is currently facing high levels of eutrophication or nutrient load, which is causing a lot of aquatic weeds to proliferate, because there were a lot of cage farms in that area. So the waste from the fish and uneaten feed ends up enriching the water. Okay, so what's the regulation saying? That you can only have X number of cages or Y number of fish in this particular water body at this particular time. And then while we also want to promote aquaculture, what's the capacity for highly qualified extension officers to offer advice? We currently have a lot of amateur fish farmers picking up their experience from YouTube, and they run into a lot of problems. And when they contact us and we try to give them the right, scientific, sound, proven advice, they will tell you, "Oh, I saw this thing on YouTube, and so I'm doing it." And then they always run into problems. Back again to pollution. What's the state of our coastal water bodies? If we have bivalves, currently, I have a few of my colleague researchers who are malacologists. That is, they are working on shellfish, specifically oysters, to map out areas that are pristine or good enough, to set up, for example, oyster culture facilities. But it turns out that a lot of the coastal water bodies are unsuitable because they are polluted with different kinds of pollutants, both nutrients from farms, both pesticide, weedicide, and again, the almighty heavy metals and other things from mining. So what are the rules that are regulating, the rates of discharge? We have facilities that are just discharging their waste or effluents into some of these water bodies freely without any repercussions whatsoever. So even though there's a lot of potential, even for us as scientists to do more research, we are also being hampered by some of these antagonistic processes that are sort of putting a cog in the wheels of the things that we do. Because if we promote aquaculture in such coastal water bodies, how many of these water bodies have water that is of good enough quality for us to even farm some of these species in? So I think I'll break here and then we can take a few more.
All right, so I just want to find out from you how you think we're going to be able to manage our fisheries resources to the extent that we can benefit everybody and to improve the socio-economic well-being of the Ghanaian.
Okay, so with what we are saying, we are looking
issues
at
issues of sustainability.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are looking at what we are calling the ecosystem-based approach to fisheries management, which is what Ghana is actually working with. And this is that we are not just looking at the fact that we should have enough fish to eat, but then the livelihoods of our fishermen, as well as the environment itself, should be taken into consideration. So a key example of this is that while we would implement for the closed fishing season, while we would advocate for the closed fishing season, while we would advocate for fishing gears to be regulated and exact dimensions to be put forward, not just saying, oh, you cannot use this net, but what size of net? Because fishers have also adapted or modified their fishing nets to enable them get as much fish as they can. Okay, so while we are looking at how best we can get enough fish so that the future is assured, what are we doing about the livelihood of the people, the fishermen themselves? And that leads us to what we call blue justice. Is there equitable distribution of amenities or resources? And what is coming from the ground right now is that the fishermen are saying that they need cushions for the closed season. They want insurance policies. Whatever relief items that were distributed to them may not be enough. A few sacks of rice or a few bags of, a few bottles or jars of cooking oil may not cut it. But we really need to press forward with the alternative livelihood strategies, and even again, climate change mitigation and resilience, because we are losing a lot of fishing villages and landing beaches, even to the impact of rogue waves. So a few landing beaches don't exist anymore. Even if we want the fishermen to move, do we appreciate the fact that their way of life is tied to the ocean? How best can we bring about a gradual change instead of just saying, you need to move out of this place, or we are giving you a few sacks of rice for you to be able to survive the closed fishing season? We need to actually lift our fishers out of this dependence on handouts or subsidies so that they can also, fend for themselves based on their own resourcefulness. And I think that in as much as we are saying yes, and this is also based on research I've done, that our fish stocks are collapsing, and these are some of the things we need to do. We should also look at the fishermen themselves and their socio-economic, aspects, so that we can bring up regulations and laws that encapsulate, the entire fishery sector and not just zoom in on one aspect of it.
All right, I'll be coming back to you. And when I come back to you, I would want to find out, there's this current trend where I think people are moving away from tilapia, and the ish thing right now is catfish, where a lot of people are doing catfish. I know a lot of catfish joints all over, I mean, in recent times. And I don't know whether it's because it is very easy to, to grow. And they call it point and kill. And you can go and get one, they measure it, and it's like 200 Ghana cedis, just one. I mean, when I come back to you, I want to find out from you why you think there's this particular trend and why a lot of people are placing emphasis now on catfish rather than the tilapia that, a lot of people used to enjoy. Absolutely. So I'll come back to you. Don't go. When I come, that's what you'll be responding to. Yes. Yes. Let me come to Mr. Matthew and find out from you. We've grown as a country, and I know that sometimes when we need consultants to deal with issues pertaining to our sector, that's the fisheries sector, we find the European Union and other foreigners appointing some of these consultants for us. Some people call that foreign interference and all that in our space. What do you think we should be doing? Do you think that is the right thing to do, or we have the requisite expertise in our country to be able to turn things in this industry or in this sector around for the better, betterment of the generality of the Ghanaian people?
Thanks, Ken. You are just talking to a fantastic consultant in DOC.
Yes.
Last time you have Prof. Ayato here. One other time you have Prof. Nunu.
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
Also here.
Another time we spoke with Prof. Ahito as well.
Yeah, you had
yes,
Dr. Kamaldeen.
Yes, absolutely.
I know people like Professor Agrifin and many others from, in fact, all the three major universities, KNUST, UCC, Legon, and EW have very good scientists when it comes to the science bit of the fisheries sector. Who have interacted with our people. What do consultants do? They pick information from people and put them together and advise as to what the challenges are, how those challenges could be resolved, and the way forward. And so you basically have a lot of learned people, high level, the academia, who have done series of research and could do anything. If it comes to writing the law, you have expert professionals.
Right.
Like I said, you have someone like Dr. Kamaldeen in your studio.
Absolutely, yeah.
He's a fantastic marine lawyer. He understands basically everything. We used to have this man, Prof. Chimeni, who had traveled extensively, and we have people like Dr. Rashid,
super maritime expert,
and others. You have Prof. Apalo. So you have basically all the resources that we need in this country, and we don't need to look to you. But what the challenge is the dependency syndrome.
Right.
Because if the people are the ones giving you the money to do the things you need to do in your country,
they'll dictate.
Then they will dictate as to how they want it done. You see, the problems we want to solve in our country are not the same problems that the EU or America may want to solve. So, for example, when we go for ICAT meetings, that's the International Commission on the Conservation of Atlantic Tuna meetings.
Come again?
ICAT, International Commission for the Conservation of Atlantic Tuna meetings.
Yes.
The EU comes with its own agenda, America comes with its own agenda.
Do you, from Africa, also go with your own agenda?
So then we are in between, and that has always been the challenge. Because we are never able to conclude. But let me give you an example. US comes, and they come, because at ICAT, apart from when the Standing Committee on Science and Research gives their scientific presentation,